My name is Mohammed Radwan. I'm a senior LM consultant at Marvel LM. This video part of publishing my all the videos on our new community. Today, I will introduce a new feature in TFS 11, which is Team Web Access. Actually, Team Web Access is not a new feature, but there are a lot of improvements introduced in TFS 11 for the Team Web Access. And I believe it becomes a first-class citizen, at least for me. There is a big improvement in performance and usability to minimize the number of round trips to the server, to make rich UI experience. There are a lot of small features, but the most important new feature are backlog, board, and the change in the home page. So let's go to the demo. I will connect to the machine using Radwan. Okay, I will create a new project, team project, TFS EG. I will open the web access. So this is the home page for the default team for our team project TFS EG. Please review the team video and post to understand what is the team feature I explain in details in this video, a previous video. Because the home page always is the summary of the whole web application or portal, so I will explain the home page at the end of this video. So this explanation can be clear after we make sense about the most components of the team web access. The first thing is to do is creating teams, team members, iteration, and area, so we can start adding our user stories or PPIs of the projects. So first I will go to the settings and start doing that. I will not work with the default so we can understand very important points. So I will remove all. Okay, I removed all. So if we go to iteration, we will find that there is only the TFS EG, and actually we can't delete this. If we go to areas, the same here, and here is the default team. So now we have three default: team, area, iteration. Now, as we can see, we must have at least one default team and one default iteration and one default area, and I can't delete this default. If I try to remove the area, for example, he will tell me that I can't remove the area because some feature like product, backlog, and task board will not work. And if I just refresh the page, we can see the auto select will bring back. Let's see it again. So let's see the home page. If we just make refresh, we can see here the workload is not working, and so is the burn down, because we didn't choose or specifying a sprint for this team. Okay, let's add some. If we go to iteration, I will select this and add release 1, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, release 2. If we go to the home page now, after I just select the sprint 1, just to make refresh, so now the workload will work and the burn down. If I select sprint 2 and sprint 3, we can see here that the workload is showing sprint 1, and if I go to work backlog, it will show the current as a sprint 1 and all the coming sprints as a future sprints. Two sections, current and the future. The current is the first sprint and all the coming sprints are future sprints. The backlog is a new feature I will introduce later in this video. Let's give sprints dates. If we go to here and set, I will set this a past sprint. And this is in the current date. And this is as a future. If we go here and let's see this, we can see here that now the sprints divided into three sections: past, current, and future. This depends on the start and the end date of the sprints itself and the current date of the server. So if we go to the home page, we can see here that it considers sprint 2, and here is the start date and end date of sprint 2. So the point here is that the home page and the backlog consider the start, end date of the sprint and the current date of the server to determine these classifications. So after we understand a little bit about iteration areas and how this reflects to the backlog and home page, let's start our project by adding teams, team members, and areas. But first, I will remove the sprints from the default team. So let's go to the settings and remove them. And by starting, I will add team 1. This is the team I will work with. And team 2. This team, just for showing something, I will start adding member. Let's add Brian, Laura, save. Okay, I will add some areas too, as we can see here. There is this. I will make the payment the default area for team 1. Let's choose team 2 and make the HR for team 2. I will also make the iteration release 2 for team 2. And make sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3 for team 1. So now we have considered and setting up our team just to concentrate on team 1. Now we are ready to start the project. Of course, in real case we will need to go to the security and start to manage some privilege for the team members. But I will explain this later in a separate part of the security only. Okay, I will open the web access. After I explain the settings for the project, I will start explaining the main 3 points today, which is backlog, board, and the home page. So let's start by the backlog. Work and the backlog. The backlog is a new feature introduced in TFS 11. Before this feature, to see the backlog, we have to create a query with the specific criteria and run the query. And the result is our backlog. But now it is not. So this backlog not depend on query as you may think. Actually, I would think about this at the beginning, and I remember when I started searching for the query everywhere, but I couldn't find it. So it is very important to understand how the backlog will show us our PPIs and the bugs without a query. First, you have to understand that the backlog needs 3 dimensions, which are team, iteration, and area, to show our backlog. So let's choose team 1 from here. So now we are on the backlog of team 1. We saw before that we choose a specific iteration for team 1, which is sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, and we choosing specific areas, which is payment, cash, and credits. So any PPI enter for team 1 and any of that iteration and that areas, it will appear here. That's it. So a good question may be here, what if I enter a PPI for a team but for different area and iteration? Another question maybe is, what if I enter a PPI for an area but for different team and different iteration? Another one, what if I enter a PPI for iteration but for different team and area? Before we can answer all these questions, let's see an example trying to adding a PPI. Let's go to the home page. I will come here and adding a new PPI. Let's say PPI 1. I will choose release 2. As we know, release 2 is set for team 2. And I will choose another area, which HR, that also set for team 2. If I go to the backlog, we can't see these PPIs. Let's query to find it. Just searching for this PPI, run the query without save. This is the PPI. If just I change the area and put it, in the iteration and put it in a sprint for the team 1, save. Let's open the backlog in a new tab. We will see that the PPI still not appear. If we go and start adding in an area for team 1 like cash and save, if we go here and click refresh, wow, now it's appeared. So after we create this example, so the answer for all these questions is the PPI will not appear. So the PPI or bugs must belong to team, iteration, and the area to appear in this backlog. We have to remember that teams can share iteration, areas, and the member as well. This is very important. After we understand a little bit about how the PPI appear in the backlog and what is the condition to be appear, let's start to know how we will work with the backlog. Okay. First, we have this quick add. We can close it from here and start open from here. This for quick adding PPIs and bugs. When I just select here and just enter the cursor here, it will put a line indicating where the PPI or where the next record will be added. So I will enter PPI 2. if I choose here and start adding here, it will adding here 3. Let's see this to be bug. So the place I want to enter my PPI or bug, I will choose the one it will be entered before, except the last one. When I choose the last one, it will enter at the end. Okay, let's this to be at the end. So now, after I adding my PPIs and bugs and so on and so forth, so I will start prioritize my backlog. I can add this to give this a high priority by drag and drop to take a high priority in the backlog. Let's estimating the size for each PPI so we can manage our sprints. We can estimate this using the effort by using the story points. Okay, let's describe how we can use the forecast. To describe the forecast, let's add some iteration. After adding the 2 sprint, I will choose them, but remember I have to choose them for team 1. So now it should appear here. That's good. Then I will estimate using the story point for each PPI, and the story point, it is relative measurement for the size of the product backlog item. Let's say this will be 2. It reflects the complexity of the PPI. Just by putting a number. So as we can see, by using the forecast, it's telling me where to put this PPI in the sprints, how I will divide my backlog. If I change this to be 6, it will show me where is the sprint. So PPI 1 and 2 should be in sprint 3, and this should be on the sprint 4. This is please type error. So this is the forecast. It will help me to forecasting about my iterations. Okay, let's assign this adjust this to PPI 3. Let's assign this to the iteration. I can see here and assign this to sprint 2. So we have sprint 1, sprint 2, we can put it here. Also the bug, it's high priority, so I will put here in the sprint 2. When we starting planning our sprint, actually we seeing the velocity of the team, but because there is no history in this project, so there is no velocity we can see or estimate based on it. At the end of this video, I will show you some velocity from a historical data. Okay, now we finish assigning the current sprint, which is sprint 2, the needed PPIs and bugs that we want to complete in these iterations. So let's start to moving to sprint 2, but before we move to sprint 2, I want to mention very important notes. Because this backlog not depend on a query? So if we want to customize this view, we have to customize the process template itself. So let's start to moving to sprint 2. But before we move to sprint 2, I want to mention very important note. Because this backlog not depend on a query, so if we want to customize this view, we have to customize the process template itself. If we go to sprint 2, it will show us the PPIs and the bugs that we assigned for this sprint. We can see here the sprint is part of the backlog for this current sprint. So we can see here this is the PPIs and the bug, and we can see here the start of the iteration and the end of the iteration, and here we can see the burn down of the sprint, but actually because we don't have any history information yet, so it doesn't show anything. I will show you at the end of the video, like I told you, some historical information and start talk about it. The most important thing here is capacity. In the capacity, we starting adding the capacity of our team, because some member of our team may be working as a part-time, maybe working as a consultant, so they are not available all the time. Some of them may be working on 2 projects at the same time, so they are working 2 hours here and 2 hours there. So we have to specifying the capacity for the team. For me, I prefer to specifying the actual capacity, the actual hour, not the idle hours. If you don't know the difference between the idle units and the actual units, you can search for this concept that introduced by Mike Cohen. But first, the actual units, it's the main hours that you are working, that you are sitting on the PC, excluding the meeting time, excluding the break, excluding whatever, any time outside of your work and you sitting on your PC and starting work. So this is the actual units, but the idle units is the whole units. Okay, so let's start adding time. Brian Kill is a consultant, so it's just working 2 hours per day, but most of other are employees, normal employees. I can also set a days off for each member, and I can set a days off for all the team. By default, Saturday and Sunday are days off. If we want to change this, especially here in Egypt, we have Saturday and Friday as a days off, not Saturday and Sunday. So we will need to customize the process. Now we will save a change. As we can see here, that according to the start date and end date of the current sprint and the days off, he starts calculating the whole capacity of the whole team and just write how many hours we have in this sprint. And we can see each one how many hours in this sprint for each member of our team. Okay, let's go to the content. Okay, I will start adding tasks. Task 1. Start assigning. This will be for Lara. Task 2. This will be for Safe. I believe that Agile is a self-managed, so it should everyone take his backlog item and start putting the task that he will use, so it will be self-managed. Let's adding another task in this bulk. I will assign to me. At this point, we finished introducing the backlog feature, and then we will move to the board. So the board is the digital Agile wall. As we already know, as most of us know, that Agile depend on the wall to reflect the transparency of the progress of the team. The wall is very important to expose the progress of the team to other teams and for the most of the stakeholders of the projects. We can see here that the board divided into the vertical. It will be here the PPIs and the bugs, and here it will be 3 states for the tasks: to do, in progress, done. It will just show tasks only. It's very easy to take the task here and start, just take it from here and start putting here. That's mean you starting work, but when you start work you have to identify what is the remaining work to finish this task. So you just, Laura just says that I have 3 hours to finish this task, and when she finished, just drop it here, so it will be 0. If Laura try to get this task back, it will give an error because she didn't specifying the remaining work. So just saying 2 hours. So now she can work on this. She can start updating the progress here by what the remaining hours when she want to reflect the progress of her tasks. We can see here this is the burn down of the current sprint, and here is the person. I can see all. If I choose Brian Killer, Laura, we can see here this is Laura, Rod 1. If I choose Rod 1 and start adding tasks, this will making auto assign for this person, because the team access expect for whom you want to assign these tasks. Yes. Okay. I can see from another dimension by team members and the same progress. So now we saw the board feature, which expose and enhance the transparency of the progress of the team to other team members and all the project stakeholders. I will explain now the final part of this video, which is the home page. As we mentioned before, the home page always is a shortcut or the main access for the whole feature of the web access. So these activities is a shortcut for the most of the web access features. So if we click on view backlog, this is the backlog. Instead of I click home and backlog, so you just click here. Viewport, the same, and this is the work items, the third one. The request feedback is the only feature. It is not a shortcut, and there is a separate video and post about the client feedback, which is called feedback manager, and which is called before in the TFS preview. This will open the portal of the team project. This will open the reports on the reporting service. This will show the process guidance. So most of this is the shortcuts for the feature of the web access. Here we can see the member of this team, of the active team, which is team 1, and here we can manage the member also. It's a shortcut for managing the members, instead of go to settings and manage the members. And this part also a shortcut for managing iteration and releases, and this for managing area, instead of going to the settings too. So as we can see here, is most of this is a shortcuts instead of going inside the feature itself, inside the web access. Okay, let's describe this part. We can find here, this is the search work items. We can search by the text included in the work item itself. For example, if we search for PPI, it will show all the PPIs. We can also using filter, if we call the assign to, but we have to enclose in double quotation, Lara, one. So it will show me here all the work items related or assigned to Lara Radwan must be enclosed in double quotation. By the way, I post a bug about this double quotation because the Team Explorer is response differently because he put the double quotation automatically. So I'm just if you want to vote for this bug. So here is the work item. We can search for the work item and we can using a filter to enhance our search. Here, this for navigating between recent project and teams. So if you want to move to another team or a team project, so this will be the tool to move from different teams and different team projects. I can browse, and here we can see the default collection, and maybe there is another default collection, and I can choose this. So we will use this to navigate between teams and team projects. Here I can manage my profile, and it's very important to manage my profile, to add the email. This is very important in the alert. So I can changing the picture. Okay. Adding the email which will be used in the alert system in the TFS. Very important. And here is the settings as we saw before to set up security and alerts and iteration areas and so on and so forth. So this is a part. This part is a team favorite. It is a shortcut for most of results for main three things: queries, source control, and build. So we can go to queries and start choosing my favorite queries that I want to see the result always. So it will appear here. So just I click here, it will just show me the query. And the source control also, I can choose the branch, the source control, and add it to the favorite, so I can always see the source control. So it is just shortcuts to the main feature as we told before. We can also doing this for build. If we have a build definition here, we can put it, because sometimes we have many build definition. In the source control we have many branches, because sometimes we have 5 or 6 branches and this team interested in a specific branch. So he just select his favorite branch and start adding to the home, so he can very fast access the branch by clicking on the link on the home page. And so the build, if we have many build definition and this team is interested in specific builds, so he will choose this build and add to the favorite so he can fast access it. So now let's see this part. This part is a shortcut for adding different work items. This will add a PPI, this will add a task, bug, and impediment test case. So this part is a shortcut for adding work items. Okay, let's see the final part, which is workload and the burn down. I prefer to explain this on a historical data of a project. Okay, I open a Fabric and Fiber web access so we can know what is the workload and burn down. So we can hear that it telling me what is the current sprint and what is the start date of this sprint and the end date. It also telling me the remaining hours of the capacity, or respecting to the capacity. So we have 39 hours remaining of 42 capacity of our teams in during this sprint. And if we click this, we will go to the sprint, and we can see here the workload for the whole team and for a specific member, like any Brian, Killer, Cameron, so we can know each workload for anyone. If we open the burn down here, we can see the burn down of the current sprint. So the burn down is reflect how we burn the user story using the story points over time. We can see here that we are doing a good job because we are burning points faster than we expect, but here we are late because this is the ideal trend. So as we can see here, we are late, and here we have more late. So maybe we can deliver this sprint on time, so maybe we need to drop some user story. And there is a lot of talking about definition of done, so we maybe need to drop some user story to deliver the other user story as a completed. I will show you. We can, if we go to see this PPIs for prime killer, it is not started yet, so maybe we can take this to, or maybe the coming sprint, and this will reflect if we open the backlog. Because the burn down, we monitor the burn down so we can know how our sprint is going to work. So in some point we maybe need to drop some user story. I believe if we are about to deliver 10 user stories, we may deliver 8 or 9 user stories but completed. And there is a lot of talking about definition of done, about the work is done. So delivering less user stories is better than delivering the whole user stories without completing each user stories. So this is very important here in Agile development. Okay. If I go to backlog, now we can see the velocity. It's very important, as we mentioned before, because depending on the velocity I can forecasting for the coming sprints. So we see here that in sprint 1 we completed 35 story points, and here 42, and we completed in sprint 3 18 story points current, and we have 13 not completed yet, and we expecting to finish this at the end of this sprint. So now we can know the velocity of the team, and we can depend on this velocity. For example, now we know that we completed about 35 story points, so now we can working on the next sprint to forecasting using this velocity of the team, and we can expect where we can put our sprints, divided our user story to the sprints. Thank you.